There's a pin gentleman.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Amy Unplugged. I'm sorry. Welcome to Recovery Unplugged Live. It was
New
going so
Year!
good. Yeah, Happy New Year. Welcome to Recovery Unplugged Live. I'm John Spalding from June NBC Live. We have Amy McCorkle here, and we also have Lynda Arnold, a literary executive, with us tonight. So, welcome to the both of you. How are you tonight?
Great, thanks,
I'm
Ed.
yeah. It's very good, very good.
Good. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
What is new, Amy?
I at the end of the new year, I got all these official selections from AOF MegaFest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was for the script, it was for the film, it was for the poster art, which Clint Gage, our editor, designed, and also the score. And then, as you know, Stephanie Ray, her in credit song "Here with Me" was accepted. And then, of course, and then I kicked off the new year right when Hyderabad, India Film Festival, um, told me, like, I got an email saying we were nominated for Best International Film. So with Letters
Wow.
to Daniel, so that feels good because that's our first international, prize. Not prize, but I always say the win is not the important thing. When you're at a festival, it's about the screening. But with COVID, when you get a nomination, that's really the win. If you can rise to the level of the top five, top six, whatever, that's the win in it.
Congrats. That's awesome. What,
Yes, and what
what did
else?
you
Oh,
do?
there's something else I
Oh,
can
okay.
announce this. Okay, so um, we now have a television series version of Letters to Daniel in development, based upon also my international best-selling memoir, Letters to Daniel, and that's exciting.
Nice. And you did a script reading.
Yes, we did our first table read for You're the Reason yesterday, and I did three clips. I thought of what the strong, because you're going through and you're finding your weaknesses and finding where what works and what doesn't work. And I felt like our female actors were just like, I was like lucky, right? I had to replace Annabelle at the last minute because she had like three projects converging on her in LA, and so she couldn't be Grace. So Judy Littleton was the next one. We said we were Littlefield, not Littleton, and she and Aaron had fantastic chemistry. And as you know, Vanessa from Letters to Daniel, she played the menacing psychiatrist who tell me to move on. That's exactly what the psychiatrist told me to do that night too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but she is so great in a totally different role as Debbie Partle. Like, she's like like a former sorority sister, and all giggly and kind of flaky, and so
When they're reading your story, right, and you hear that, right, you said that that was what the psychiatrist actually said to you. What is that like, even in a, because you did it virtually, but it still has to bring back like memories and thoughts and things like that.
yeah. Okay, let me tell you, I've sat through three different screenings of the film. Uh, Once at my family's church, because we shot at my family's church, and they like donated $500 to the budget, and they were very kind to let me shoot there. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna put on something for you. So I screened the movie, like a private screening for the church, and I don't know, the sound was really bad on the amp. It was low quality, But when I went to uh, Las Vegas for the theatrical premiere at the Galaxy, there was only 5 of us in there, and we had our masks on, and we were sitting like so many seats apart. But when her face is 60 foot tall, and she leans forward, as I sat through that scene, I'd sat through that scene 2 other times and been perfectly okay, but that was the scene I got emotional on. Looking back at it, like right when I filmed it, I was fine. Like everybody was saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I was like fine. Like certain scenes did get to me, but that was the one that got to me at the theater.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was just that the screening in Vegas was like a waking dream. A waking dream. It was just so awesome. Because our digital poster was up, and it was like 10 feet tall, and we had the step and repeat banner. It was great. And I'm really excited about the television version, and opening us up to like feedback, people in the industry who know and can make, like, because everybody's on the same page. We want the best product possible. We want it to be a hit.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to help people. Like my goal, like I told Missy, it doesn't matter if it, because when we set out to cast it, we said we're going to open ourselves originally in 2015. We said it doesn't matter ethnicity. We're just looking for the best cast possible. And I think, with the television series, we can kind of like take more dramatic license, and and look for that diversity in the cast, and maybe even take 2 tracks, have a mainstream audience one, and have one fully geared towards the faith-based audience, because we had Letters to Daniel on Parables TV, and but we also have a version on Real Women's Network, and
right.
They're 2 very different networks.
Okay, cool. And we have Lynda Arnold here from Creative Artists. So Amy, you tell me, how did you come across Lynda, and like, without going into the interview, just kind of give a intro of what we're gonna figure out.
I was on LinkedIn, and it was October. This was before, like shortly before I got COVID, and fell off the face of the map. I found her on LinkedIn, and it was a talent agency. And when I went to her site, it said she specialized in representing the marginalized and those with invisible illnesses. And I was like, right?
The angels sung on high.
Yeah.
That's cool.
She just messaged me.
Don't message her back in the middle of the show.
Oh, she said it. Oh no, she wanted to come in.
Tell her to come in. 599-401-010.
ID.
599-401-010.
Okay.
Zoom.us.
Okay.
We take broadcasting. We take broadcasting privilege here when you go live on social media.
I was wondering, is everybody coming in or what?
No, it's a party, Lynda.
Well, Missy is my partner. She's the
other. I know. We're joking. We're joking because he just gave it out over the thing.
Okay. And what's the number?
599.
Okay, 599.
401. 010. There's
010?
There's a waiting room, Lynda, so I have full autonomy over who gets in here. So okay, I'll read you the name, and if you don't want them in, we can kick them out.
As Missy would say, I'm the as someone with bipolar disorder is want to do. I had it's like one of our actresses, Jenny, who was playing on the Zoom. It said Margaret, but her name is Jenny, and she was playing Gemini, and she's a caregiver to a senior mother with bipolar disorder, and there are no other family members to help take care of her. And you know, it's amazing when you work on a project, everybody starts saying, "Oh, I this," and "Oh, I that," and you realize how prevalent stuff like mental illness is. And my caregiver, my primary caregiver, um, Missy, because I'm surprised we didn't kill each other. uh, but uh, but we got through it, and you know, as I want to say, a situation like that will either bring you closer together or tear you apart, tear your friendship apart. And I got blessed with a really good friend. So, but I found Lynda, and her mission was to represent those who were talented and marginalized and invisible illnesses. And I just thought that, you know, without going in too much into it, that she was interested. You know, I saw her, I was looking for an agent. So we talked, and then I got COVID, and
Gotcha.
and then we'll talk later about other stuff.
All right.
But
Well, let's watch the Letters to Daniel trailer, and
Yes.
then when we come back, you're going to interview Lynda, and
Yes.
this is the long trailer, so it should give Missy 2 minutes or so to go to 599-401-010 after you go to Zoom.us. All right, everyone, here's the trailer for Letters to Daniel, and then we'll be back, and Amy's going to interview Lynda Arnold.
Dear Daniel Craig, life did not always look like this. This marked a moment of triumph, a way of crushing an abysmal past and daring those with a stereotypical view of those with mental illness to challenge me on any front. To many, this was just a documentary. For me and Missy, this was our life.
It's like my skin is coming off. And my thoughts, they're racing so fast. I can't keep up.
I'm suffering too, you know. You're not the only one.
It's like my mind is coming apart and I can't get it to come together.
I think it's more than just that. Amy's been having a really hard time lately. She goes on these crying jags. She explodes without warning. She's so angry and so paranoid these days. She's not the happy Amy that I remember from Kentucky.
She thinks you're manic depressive. I, however, do not. I think this is something you've been obsessing on. I believe that it's all in your head.
Just come here. We're going to get you some help. I'll be okay. You do have a diagnosis. You have rapid cycling manic depression.
Dear Daniel Craig, bipolar disorder and those that saw it as contagious sought to pull me under, snap me in half, break me down. Even those well-intentioned do-gooders who see therapy and medication as bad and wrong, who see mentally ill individuals as hapless and hopeless, they're wrong. I found hope in your work. A comrade in Missy, my rock when no one else understood. You two are my twin lights when this disease threatened to take me down. And treatment was what got me through. Thank you, Daniel, for your talent and your work. Thank you for everything.
Okay. Tonight we have a very special guest in Literary Executive Lynda Arnold of Creative Artists, LLC. I first discovered you on LinkedIn, as we were saying, with the talent agency 7 Stars Talent, where you detailed your journey from nurse, I think, to a
Yes.
warrior for your clients. Why not share with my audience what took you from nurse, or what your original, in your first career,
Wow.
to creative artist, and what kind of stories, and exactly what kind of stories interest you?
Sure. Well, my journey over the last 20 years in entertainment, in the entertainment industry, has been really very diverse. But it's true, it didn't begin that way. It wasn't intended to be in the entertainment industry. I went to school for nursing. I got my bachelor's science degree in nursing, and I graduated as a young nurse at the beginning of the HIV epidemic in somewhat in the early 90s. I was in Pennsylvania, and I was working as a new graduate in the intensive care unit, and I was accidentally infected with HIV occupationally through a needle stick injury, and that changed my life. It changed my trajectory of my life. And while I worked passionately in that industry for many, many years, up until 1999, the year 2000, actually, when President Clinton passed a law to advance healthcare worker safety for nurses everywhere, to require, not just nurses, sorry, healthcare workers everywhere, that required the use of protected needle devices that we all take for granted now. When you're going to get a blood drawn or a shot, there's a sheet that comes over them and protects them. They have to be activated manually. Some are passive devices. I was part of that movement with President Clinton and union members and nurses and everything to change that. So it was a long journey from 1992 to there. But during that transition, while I was nursing, and when I was battling HIV disease early on, before my transition into AIDS, I had fallen in love and gotten married. Still married to the same man today. And we began a family through adoption. And my daughter, who is now 24, had a inkling for the stage. We got her when she was 4 days old. We had no idea that she had an interest in this. And when she was 6, she appeared off Broadway in an off-Broadway production. Wow. And when she was appearing off Broadway, there was a talent management company that formed out of the offsprings of that troupe she was performing in. And even though my daughter had her own, at the age of 6, had her own manager, and then had an agent by the age of 7, I started to volunteer with the management company that was associated with this off-Broadway troupe that she was in, and it grew. And a couple of friends of mine joined in, and I stayed very active with them for 6 years on and off, while I tried to maintain my position in nursing, and wasn't really sure what my career trajectory was going to be, because my health was always at risk, in bedside nursing, no matter what I did. And the hours are long, and it was complicated from facility to facility in the 90s, and work being a nurse who's infected with HIV is not like it is today. My medication regime was never well controlled, and I battled a lot with side effects of the medications and things like that. So the entertainment industry, gave me an outlet, and in the working with major pharmaceutical companies who manufactured these devices, and legislative branches and parts of the entertainment industry, to pass such legislation, I got to travel over the world and do lots of things, and public speaking, and was present at many conferences. And it really kind of parlayed all my skills into talent management, because here I had a child that was growing up into it and could see this other side of it. And we went on to adopt another child. We adopted our first child, then we had this child, adopted this child, and then we went on to have a child biologically. And it was after the birth of that child, and then September 11th happened, that I kind of said, okay, I'm done with all this travel and all this related to everything. And I think, like everybody else, I took a step back and kind of said what I want out of my life. September 11th was a huge turning point for many people. And I was like, I really like what I'm doing, but I'm not doing well on my HIV medication, and I'm not tolerating things. And the birth of my child was something that we had planned, and Michael turned out to be HIV negative, and we were really grateful for that. But it wasn't a risk that I wanted to continue to take. And it was just like a real turning point for me. So at that point, my daughter was still very involved in the entertainment industry. My husband was a teacher. He had gotten out of the military and became a teacher. There are all sorts of reasons why we had to get out of the military, because they didn't support people with HIV, and there was all this discrimination. And he wasn't infected. He's never been infected. We've been married 26 years. But we decided to take a summer trip to California so that my daughter could train more. And while she was here, on that trip, I decided to leave that management company and said, you know what, I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just done. I'm going to be a mom to my kids. I'm done with everything. You know, I just kind of went through my own kind of transition in life. And while I was here, we decided to stay because my two youngest children, the one we have biological and my adopted daughter, had found that they really liked California. And my older son, who was also adopted, he went home with my husband, and we said, okay, we'll give it 6 months. And my daughter had booked a show here in California, but we didn't intend to stay much longer. We were still paying, you know, for 2 places to stay, and on a teacher salary and disability, this wasn't going to happen, right? So we weren't one of these African American. My husband and I, my husband's a Brit. My biological child is blonde, blue-eyed. We liked the fact that California was very brown, very inclusive, very welcoming. And we said, you know, we're just going to make California our home. And so we did. So we transferred here to California. And it was in that transfer a couple of years later that I found, you know, someone else to kind of partner with, and said, you know, I really miss doing management. I really miss what I was doing. And how do I get back into that? And so I found a partner, and we started a very, very successful bi-coastal management company. And we found someone else in New York City who was a really friend of mine back from that troop days that I had. And the 3 of us kind of started, and we launched some of the most successful young adults today in TV, film, and Broadway that you have. And I stayed with that company until my HIV disease got too much and I wasn't taking care of myself. I had given too much to that company and not to myself. And I almost died a couple times, and I had to leave. I realized that I think, like most people who are battling any illness, any hidden illness, because HIV has really become hidden. When I came to California, I hid it. When I was in New York and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, everybody knew. I was very public with it, right? I'd launched a worldwide campaign. I thought, but when we came here, I hid it. It wasn't something I talked about. I was focused on raising my family. So even when we started the management company, I was very focused on just doing my management job. So I wasn't consistent with my medication. I wasn't doing what I needed to do. I was busy running my business with my partner. I was busy building other people's careers, and not taking care of my own health. And in the end, it caught up to me. And you can't run away from any disease, really, if you really want to think about it. So I learned that lesson the hard way. And in 2013, I had to leave that company behind in the pinnacle of its success, because I felt like I just couldn't function. I was coming apart. It was true, health-wise I was. And so it took several years to kind of get back on track. And in that time, I slowly built my life back. And when I mean slowly, had transitioned. I was very lucky. One of my clients that started with me all the way back in the troop had become a writer. And her mother and she had teamed up with a film production company. So I worked with them in talent liaison and financing and all the things that go into making films successful. And in every company they work with, I worked with, and I saw the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between, everything you don't want to know as a filmmaker. And especially when you're kind of recovering and trying to get your life back on track, and you're like, this is the most depressing thing. But it was good, and it was bad, and it was hopeful. 1 minute we'd have this major high, and then like 10 minutes later it would be a major low, dealing with investors and financing. And it was really like this incredible ride, right? And I did that for a while, and then another friend asked me to join their management company, because it was always in part of me, right? It was always there. You couldn't shake that, right? It was ingrained in me. And then from there, I got really healthy and really strong, and I was back to volunteering with in the HIV community, which I had started at. But I hadn't really done too much in LA. Remember, I was quiet. Even when I departed my company, we never said why. And I started to get real involved in the local HIV community more so. And my husband and I decided that we wanted to become foster parents, and we already had been on the East Coast before we moved to California. And we were public this time around, just like we were in the first time around. We adopted our kids, and we found success. And we fostered medically challenged and special needs children. And we ended up with a sibling group of four kids who all needed a home. And those kids stayed with us, and we ended up being pinned to adopt those children. And it was in that transition that I realized, okay, I need to get more serious, because the youngest of them was only 4 at the time. And so I went to work for an agency, a talent agency, for a little bit to hone up my negotiation skills and my contract skills. And then I decided, okay, I wanted to open my own agency. And I did that for 2.5 years. And we had an office in New York and an office in LA, and we had a partner in the UK, and then the pandemic hit. And it was with the pandemic hitting that I decided to, this December, transition back into management with creative artists. And I went under their larger umbrella and took my staff with me and a lot of my clients, and focused primarily on literary, which we had started over at the agency that I owned. And decided that that was the best way that I wanted to move forward, that I didn't want to be an owner, that being an owner wasn't everything, but that working with my clients was more important. And what became real important to me all the way through, from my days of bedside nursing, my days of being a survivor, and still am a survivor, and living with a disease that is marginalized in our community, to working with my writers and working with the talent that I represent, is that I often, and even living my own life, I'm really proud of fighting for the underdog and fighting for people who are invisible in our community, on every level. But I'm also really proud because most times what I found is that they're the people that are doing the best work. And they just don't get the support that they needed, and they're often they're stepped on time and time again, and they're passed over for the promotion or the next job or the next this, because they don't have, maybe they didn't have this, that, or that, in mind. And it can take a long time. It can take a really long time. And I'm okay with that. So it's one of my favorite quotes is that, like, patience is a virtue, and I mean that. Like, I practice what I preach. The truth is a gift to be used, not to be hidden. And that you really just, success is when opportunity meets preparation. Like those 3 things mean everything to me. I practice them in my life. I mean it in my professional life, and I ask that of my clients and my writers. My talent and my writers, because I'm not looking for one-hit wonders, and I'm not looking for overnight success. I never have, and I never will be, because to me, that's not what it's about. This is all a journey, right? It's a journey where you make mistakes and you live and you learn, and you can look back enough to say thank you, and enough to appreciate the experience, the good and the bad, and to move on. Otherwise, I never look back.
You are, among other things, a mother. How has being a mother affected your approach to what you do in the entertainment industry?
I'm the mother of 7, and I'm a grandmother of 2. So I have children ranging in ages from 25 down to 6, and I have 2 grandchildren. Being a mother is the best job in the world, and the one that brings you the most heartache. That's the truth. And it's the one that is probably my primary function in life, right? But it's a balance. It doesn't need to define it doesn't need to define who I am. And I mean that. My children have the opportunity to find their own lives. Each one of them, they're all very different, all very individual. However, I take my mother role very, very seriously, in the fact that I am a huge proponent of safety in my household and excellence in my household, and expect the best out of my children because I'm willing to give them the best. And I expect the best out of my partner, out of my husband. And if they're not willing to bring that to the table, then they know that that I'm not going to reciprocate in that manner in that time, and that we need to come to some other negotiation because I'm not playing. I'm a different parent now than I was with my older children. Now with my little younger children, because I'm older. There's a huge age gap between now and then. I've learned, and I'm tired, and I've already done all this. So they don't get the benefit of, that plus. But on the plus side of it, that's good because I've already learned a lot of that, and I can skip ahead where we need to be. So it is challenging. Right now, it's incredibly challenging due to the LA County shutdown of the schools. I don't know where you're in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, I'm in Kentucky.
In Kentucky, right?
And
you're not shut down, right? The schools aren't shut down.
Everybody, it's in TI. Everybody's online at home.
Oh, you are online. See, my son goes to University of Kentucky, and they're in school. He's graduating this year. My third oldest, yeah. So, but the virtual school system is, leaves very much to be desired. And, it's, there's a very big digital divide amongst what we're learning, but yet it's a very challenging thing because I care very much about the safety of my children, right? In a school environment. As I'm speaking to you tonight, we have an 8-year-old that's not feeling well. And, I'm convinced myself that I'm sure it's just a cold and the regular flu, although I'm not quite sure how he got it because he hasn't been anywhere. But I have a call in for the doctor in the morning, and, believe me, all day I've been worried about COVID. So, it's challenging because to have to go, and I know you just went through it. So to go through that every day and imagine like, oh God, they're going to be at school, and every time they're going to come home with a fever or a headache, like, are you going to go through this?
No,
it's a challenge.
Yeah, right. I know the challenge. A former uncle of mine had just had a heart attack, and they don't have a room for him.
Yeah, no, it's challenging. And LA County is really facing that. We're out of hospital beds. We have no room. If someone needs stitches, there's nowhere to take them. It's a real problem in LA. So anyway, it's we're really facing a crisis, and I think that the world will get better. I have no doubt that the world will get better, and that the vaccination rollout will get better, and life will get better. But it's what everybody's been saying. I really believe that 2021 is a transition year. It's not this magic bullet that we're going to see, because we've already seen it. It's January 3rd, February 4th, and we're already seeing we're in a transition. And I'm not big into the blame game. I just know the facts, and I try to follow the facts. And the reality is, I think one of my friends put it really well. It's like low expectations, high hopes. I really think that's where we need to be, because there's a lot going on. And if we can, even for our families, if we can manage that, for the school district, if we can manage it, for the politics, if we can manage it for the entertainment industry. I mean, I have a 24-year-old who does theater, who's a musical theater major, who's sheltering at home with us right now, who's been here since her cruise ship got grounded. She was on a cruise contract, who's out of work. Yeah, she's auditioning for TV and film, but her primary work since she graduated and focus has been theater. And yes, theater is bound to come back, but it's a long journey, right? This is heartbreaking. And there are so many people just unemployed in the country, just regular people. When we ran our numbers and why we closed 7 Stars Town, we closed it because of the pandemic. That was the primary reason. But and that's okay. It's okay to pivot, right?
Yeah.
I need to feed my children. I need to be able to not take that money from them anymore if I don't see any immediate success. I gambled with it long enough, right? So it's okay. It's just a longer process. But I have disability coming in. My husband has his, has his teacher salary coming in. We have money. We have a roof over our head. We have food in our stomach. We're blessed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not. We're good. we're okay. There are people that are not. And I think we have to always, somebody really once told me, imagine being that last person on earth who you can't look to and say, oh, there's nobody worse than you. You know what I mean? Like, what a horrible feeling that must be.
Man, okay. So, why did you choose to specialize in representing the marginalized and those with invisible illnesses?
Well, particularly I chose, it's a combination. Invisible illnesses are in there as a genre, like a genre of writers, like a group of writers, right? And particularly because I already had worked and do work well within those communities. Number one, I live and exist in those communities in my own work and advocacy work, whether it was in foster care, adoption, our own children, our own dynamic makeup within the HIV community, my work within the lesbian and gay community, female writers in general. I mean, like, whether it's ethnic, female, whatever, it's all in there. Invisible illnesses to me capture a lot of things. And I know you and I spoke privately, but bipolar disorder specifically is something that is really was a big thing in our family. And it's I think, carried down on my father's side of the family, but my own sister who died in end of April, of this year, right when COVID began, had horrible, she had spina bifida, but she also had COVID-19. I did not have COVID-19. She died because of COVID-19 because she was so afraid of it. So her bipolar disorder got in such a mania state that she couldn't get out of it, and she didn't get treatment for the urinary tract infection that was caused from the spina bifida. It's just a long story. And she left behind my nephew and my brother-in-law who are still grieving. My nephew graduated high school this year, and she never really truly got treatment for bipolar in any of it. And so, those stories need to be told, any of those stories, from an authentic voice. I'm big on, I guess, what I would capture more on authenticity. I would put all of that into an authenticity pile, right? I'm big on authentic stories, no matter what perspective you're coming from. If I have a wonderful Jamaican writer, Sardia Robinson, whose stories, whether they are her own storyline that she's bringing to film, or her TV series that she has as a crime drama, or these other immigrant stories, they're all very authentic, right?
Right.
My comedy writers, they write from a very authentic place. Like, anything is authentic. You can go through my writers and they're all authentic. And that's what that's why I think, like, Letters to Daniel is so special, because you write from an authentic place, right? And that you find that people who are marginalized or with an individual illness or whatever, they come from that space because that space, and you're trying to bring your voice and make your voice heard. You're trying to find your seat at the table, right?
Right. Okay. Your roster of clients include those with deals, and there are Emmy Award winning individuals and up and comers. What attracts you to talent? You kind of touched on this just a second ago, be it actors, writers, or directors, and makes you decide, yes, they have what it takes and I'm going to represent them.
My roster right now is primarily focused on writers and directors. I have a very select group of talent, right? So, and a highly, highly, highly select group of talent. So, and that has changed since my agency days into this transition into creative. But in the talent that I take, I look at to see whether or not do I see any crossover into my literary roster, right? So if I'm working on a deal, or if I have writers that are working on deals, or I know that they have other scripts out there, or I'm going to be connecting with producers, do I think that they're the type of talent that I might want to throw their name in for something, or have a discussion, or the discussion could go their way about them, no matter what level of success they're at. And so that is very important when I looked at my talent. I'm not taking any new public talent submissions. I don't need to right now. Creative is a large enough company. I have other colleagues of mine who are involved with the company. that if I need, if I felt the need to have more talent, then I could say, hey, can I cut in on yours, or what, can we share, or whatever, what's the deal? So I'm not interested in talent. My pure interest is, that doesn't mean I'm not interested in talent. It means I have what I have, and I'm committed to the ones that I have. And then I want to continue to grow my writers and directors, because I think it's so important. So my writers and directors really are at different stages, and most of them, I have to think, most of them, all of them currently, Kate, were already with me in Seven Stars Talent, with one or two exceptions. And so I brought them over into creative, right? And they all got their, some were already had option deals in place, some already had produced other films that were successful, some other directors had already won Emmys, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Prior even to coming to Seven Stars Talent. Others did all of that in the very short months that we had Literary, which was literally a 6-month time frame, before we closed at the end of the year, under Seven Stars Talent. So we have a lot of momentum for what we're bringing forward. And that's good. That's all good news. So they're all in very different developmental levels. The one thing I think that is universal to all of them is that, again, they're not one-trick ponies. They all have various scripts in development, whether that's screenplays, podcasts, books, although I don't focus too much on books, but some of them do. New media series. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Feature films, television series, new media, yes. It's a bunch, right? And some theater, believe it or not. So yeah, that's what kind of the writers bring. And again, they all are authentic. At each one of them, there's something that I like about what they do, enough so that when I am at a conference and another writer approaches me and says, I am this type of writer, and this is my bio, and this is my history, I found myself there. I definitely have holes in that roster, but I've been surprised that I've been able to say, actually, I already kind of have a writer writing in that space, and ironically, they kind of fit this and this and this and this and this that you already are. So I'm gonna pass, because again, and I really believe that they're writing at an excellent level, that we can raise that bar of excellence, and that's really important. So that's kind of where I am.
Okay. Creative seems to and you seem to have authentic storytelling as its brand, so to speak.
I think so. I think creative. I mean, Brent has been away for the holidays, so Brent Paxton is the CEO of Creative. So I think that he really envisions, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if you read Brent Paxton's bio over at Voyagella, he just did a new story right for the holidays. He's really into film and television, and they open their office in Mexico City, and they have their own production. Creative has its own production company associated with it, and I think they kind of they're trying to focus a little bit up right now, like suspense, horror, thriller, that area. But again, there's a lot of authenticity, particularly even in the Hispanic and Latino markets, right? So.
Right.
There's, and even, I can see my side growing too in faith and family. I can see there's just a lot. There's just a lot that I can see where we can go with this together. So, the opportunities are really endless. It's a matter of pulling together and working very pointedly through. Again, it's not a rush job. Right now, production is backed up. They are backed up. You hear this thing, oh, they need content, they need content. Depends on who you're talking to. Right now, production is backed up. They're backed up from where they had to, stop and get things out, right? So it's more a matter of connecting and finding out who needs what and where they are. And then again, it's going to be a matter of financing. Financing is backed up. Producers are, investors are backed up because they can't get their insurances, and in order to get, so it's a method, right? So it's a building game, right? I'm not there to sell anybody some false hope. Like, there's too many producers out there who do, and I think that's a shame.
No, you're gonna promise to do your best.
Yeah, that's the reality.
That's all anybody can do.
I'm a very transparent person.
Yeah.
And I think creative has been too. I think creative is, and I like that about them. I mean, I think, do I hope that everything will continue to grow and explode? Sure. I think, I don't know what, I don't own the company, so I have no idea what the future, for all I know, he can six-figure deals behind my back to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know, right? Whatever. That's what I'm doing. I'm just doing my thing every day, right? But it's, I think it's good. I think we're good. I think it's a good place to be right now, and you just gotta go with it, right? It's good. The deals that we do have one in animation that's moving into, as a novelist moving into, pre-production for animation, trying to get it fully moved in. We're have a series that has trying to think off the top of my head, a great new series that is being shot with feature film that's being shot. We have limited series is being shot. We have and a podcast series, not just like a podcast, like not a reality series, a podcast scripted series, possibly two of them, that are moving into pre-production. So it's going to do really well, hopefully. So there's a lot going on with the small, the contingency of armies that we have. And there's a lot going to happen. I believe, again, this is a year of transition. These are months of transition to try to figure out where people are and in placement. And our directors are shortlisted. We have, getting our directors shortlisted for work. Again, the work has to come, but they're already shortlisted for, I can't keep up with the shortlisting that they're doing, and the attachments that there are, and our talent that's being attached to the project. So it's great.
Okay. So now let's pivot and talk specifically about mental health.
Yes.
What makes you such a passionate advocate for the marginalized and the differently abled?
So I mentioned that. I started to talk about my sister Michelle. So my sister Michelle is 11 months my younger sister, who died last year. Last year. I keep getting my dates mixed. She actually died of a infection that was not COVID, but was it was just sepsis is what it was. But Michelle was born with spina bifida, which is a hole in your spine, and she's 11 months. She makes her my Irish twin. But she was able to she graduated high school. She got married. She held jobs. She raised a son. She had 3 children, but 2 died. 1 prematurely, 1 full term at birth, and then 1 that is now living, who is a senior in high school. She did die during COVID-19 at the very onset, because she just kind of went into a psychosis related to her fear of the disease.
Yeah.
And wouldn't let herself be treated for the urinary tract infection because she was having some kidney problems and was so fearful of catching COVID-19 in the hospitals, and wouldn't let any home care come in, and she basically died. So while she's not a COVID-19 statistic, she, in my mind, is like is in a way, she always will be. But she's a piece, and but I was raised with a specially abled sister, right? I'm one of 5 girls. My dad had 11. He's one of 11, and Irish Catholic family, and my mom is Polish. And we, had our own struggles and issues with everything growing up. In my family, there's other lines to bipolar, manic depression, anxiety. My aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, whatever, they're all there. So I'm very aware of it. And my own, in the adoption issues and foster care, we had to learn a lot about it. In the HIV community, we had to learn a lot about it. It affects HIV is, one of the biggest things that affected me with HIV was not just my HIV disease, but was my depression. HIV is one thing, but battling current depression is not just a result of the HIV, but it's a result of just the diagnosis itself. So yeah, it's something that I'm very, very aware of.
Okay. I too am passionate about the mental health advocacy platform I have built, part of which is this show. It's a recurring theme in my fiction and my screenwriting with my partner, and a mentally ill character can exist in any story. How do you like to see differently abled individuals or diverse individuals framed? What kind of stories do you like to see them framed in?
Well, first of all, when it comes to casting, I don't that the person who is auditioning or capable of playing a role are able to bring the emotions and the likeness to the character that the writer or the director envisions for the creation of the character. There should be no limitations, because whether or not that's in race, creed, color, physical ability, mental ability, whatever, it doesn't. That shouldn't. Should not matter. It shouldn't matter. We're in 2021. And I mean that across the board. I mean that entirely. And that also applies to below the line positions, crew positions, writing position, above line positions. I mean, wherever we are. I understand that there is a backlash in the community, particularly along racial lines, when it comes to, like, if you look at, we watched Come Away. I don't know if you saw that movie this Christmas. And while we also watched Jingle Jangle, there was a big, push for Jingle Jangle, the holiday movie, but there was not a big push for Come Away. And Come Away, there was a huge backlash because people didn't want to see these animated characters being brought on live screen and being portrayed in different races. There's a whole thing about it. So it's kind of like a fan base support that went against it. So I understand that we're still dealing with humans who have very bigoted emotions and even not even bigoted, just misunderstanding and lack of education and no diversity sport and blah, 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 blah. And so I think that there's so much more that needs to be done. And I say that all the time. In the arts, there's more to be done. In our education, there's more to be done. In our communities, there's more to be done. In our churches, there's more to be done. In our schools, there's more to be done. But it takes one person at a time. And the more that we do it, the more that happens. I had a client, Tara Nicole Zarian, who uses a wheelchair 70% of the time, not 100% of the time. And you know what? She, because of the diseases that she has and the syndromes that she has, and there's a lot of education that had to be around that campaign, because hers was a hidden disability, right? But there's just so much that can be done, but I think it's a personal responsibility, and I always encourage my writers to think and creative when they're looking at above the line, whatever, at below the line, to look as diverse as possible, as humanly possible, to make those stories, because there should be no boxes. And that's something I believed in all the way back. And that's, if you look at it, again, I said, we adopted 2 children. They're both African American. My 3rd child is white. My next 4 children are Mexican American. So yes, I have to see color. My sister has a disability. She is now deceased, but I was raised with a sister 11 months younger than me, who walked with crutches and braces and was in a wheelchair. Like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I was raised in this world where I knew the hardships and the handicaps and the diversity that was in front of me, but I just knew that you just did it. There were no excuses. Right? You just do it. It's just, they're just people. I can understand there is a difference. Don't get me wrong. There is a difference in the diversity that needs to be celebrated amongst people. But when it comes to holding someone back or not allowing them to take an opportunity, sorry. My family was raised before ADA was even a thing. My parents raised my sister before ADA, before the Americans with Discrimination Act. You understand that? My sister was doing chores next to me. My sister was tap dancing on a board that my father created in our little recital because we all were taking tap dance lessons, and she was taking them too because they put taps on her hands without anybody telling them that they had to, because it would be an unfair treatment. Because you just do it.
Yeah. How do you think your vision for your clients matches up with their dreams?
I think my vision for my clients, I think most of my clients understand where I'm coming from. I think most of my clients who don't get to know me pretty quick. I think that when it comes down to what my vision is, it's at the end of the day, it's still the writer's intention, right? It's not, I'm a manager, I'm there, it's not my story, I didn't write their story. And at the end of the day, when unless they're going to option their rights to a producer and licensor and give it away, then that's the producer's rights at that point to take it forward. And we can maintain some consultancy rights, things like that, that's great. But a writer has to be willing to know where they're willing to walk and draw the line. And there are some, like, I'll give you an example, a writer who says they have to star in their own movie, or they have to star in their own series, and they don't have but if that's where their line is drawn, then that's where they've drawn that line, right? But they have to know what they're up against, right? They have to know where, now if you've had X, Y, and Z and that's in your favor, or if you're in a niche market where that might work or whatever, your thought process may be very different, right? But I'm not one to not have a hard conversation with my writers just because, I'm going to say to you or to my writer, at some point we need to have these conversations, because you're going to be involved with a lawyer, you're going to be involved possibly with an agent, you're going to be involved with these people who are coming at it from the financial side, from an artificial intelligence side, who are drawing these numbers, who are looking at these things. It's not enough. It's just a great story will get you in the door. And it's always about your script. But at the end of the day, the hard data matters. These things matter. These conversations have to take place, right?
Right.
Because this is a business. If you want to just make a movie to show your friends and family, right, or to put on your casting profile because you want to show casting, you can act. I
heard someone put that filmmaking is the most expensive art form, but I've also heard it said, and it was I went to a film school workshop, and it was Doug Simmons who taught it, because it ain't called show art, it ain't called show friends, it's called show business.
True. And it's how you manage that business. Your film doesn't have to cost X, Y, and Z. It can cost, you can have your production values, but know where you're putting your money into. Know where your production values are going to be, and don't lie to the people that have helped you to get there, and make sure that you used your marketing dollars wisely. Make sure that if you had a, X, Y, and Z fund or whatever, that you use that tool wisely. Take advantage of what you did so that your credibility matters more and will follow you through. It's really important. One of the things that I'll do when I don't know, I'm sure other people do this, I'm sure it's no big secret, but the reality is that when people submit to me, or when they want me to look at them, and I'm sure they're looking at me and whatever they want to do, it doesn't matter. I literally go to IMDb. Now, IMDb is not the most reliable at times, and it doesn't have all the information right. And I'll go to another system that we use, but I won't name. But if you're not even there correctly, and I can't find you in a couple of hits or whatever and figure out what it is, it frustrates me, because if and I work even with my own writers, I work with that stuff. And I may have made an exception here or there for people, but they're not going to last that long if they can't figure it out, because the world moves too quickly, right? We are in a professional world. Like I said, do you want to make movies for your friends back home? or your fan base or your girlfriend or your mother or your father or your grandma, well, then you can do that. Get a camera and get some friends to do it. Like, nobody's stopping you, right?
Right.
In a filmmaking group and have a great time. You know, like that's a very different level.
Well,
very different
it's
level that we're
like
talking about.
an email I got from a manager said, this isn't for everyone.
True.
But
It's
I've had my as an author and having like books reviewed on Amazon, I've had my work called everything from brilliant to pornographic, and got everything from a 1-star rating to a 5-star rating for what I've done. So, but as I've always heard, nothing's a 1, nothing's a 5. Everything falls in. But I'm the kind of person, I had published, self-published, part memoir called Something to Believe In. And it recently won the Imagine Award for Best Nonfiction. Mm-hmm. And I had someone I respect a great deal, Del Weston, who runs AOF Megafest. He wrote this introduction for me. And I was like, oh my God. I was so floored by what he said. He talked about it. He said, I had, some people don't have the stomach for it, to wait online in the most famous deli. She knows everybody's got a ticket and the number will come up, but not everybody's willing to wait. Yeah. When you battle bipolar disorder, this waiting isn't so bad. And
well, that's the truth. And you bring up a good point. It all becomes relative, right? So my own struggles personally with HIV disease, with adoption, with discrimination, with the battles in my family, with nearly dying twice, with all the struggles that I've had to deal with in my life, with, living in different communities, hiding, deciding when to come forward, how do I manage this? How do I try to navigate 2 lives? How do I raise my children safely, but keep them protected at the same time? How do I, do what I love, but still all of that makes you a much more, patience is a virtue. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but it, it makes you a much more effective warrior.
I would say perseverance. I think that's
perseverance, yes. And
like
you become warriors. You become little warriors in life, because you're not going to take any. At the end of the day, you're here to play. You're here to be in it. And your scenery may change, your landscape may change, your foot soldiers may change, your supporters may change. They'll come and go, but the true people, and you've said that because I know your story with Missy. The true people who are always with you they will be with you whether in good times or in bad.
Yes.
Right? And it's the same thing when you find, it is the same thing when you find people in the entertainment world, because this world is crazy. And, we eat you out and spit you out, eat you up and spit you out. But when you find someone who's an advocate of your work, of your writing, of an editor, of whatever, who's willing to tag team with you and worker services, or I connect personally with a producer and they really like somebody's, but they just can't do that story right now. But I know that I can go back to them and say, hey, can you read this later? Or there's a casting director that I'm working with, and I'm like, hey, you happen to you do like producing, but are you producing this year? Like, those relationships matter, right?
Right.
They matter because they're people that that are going to be there. So I have those relationships for the last 20 plus years, right? In all forms of the entertainment industry. And that's what I believe I bring to the table. And that's what you believe, you have in your life. And that's what's going to keep you going. And those are, whether they're in the industry, out of the industry, in the community, out of the community, that's what brings us all together. And that's what makes it, people need to find, and they'll find that in their own lives.
Okay. So what would you say is the hardest thing about caregiving, but at the same time, what is the best thing?
Caregiving? Was that the question?
Yes. It's like, what is the hardest thing about caregiving? But on the flip side, what is the best thing?
Well, I think the hardest thing about caregiving is watching someone suffer and feeling helpless because you're giving up control, right? You have no control.
Right.
The best thing is probably, for me personally, the best thing for me personally is feeling, because I am a control freak. The best thing for me personally is when I have a positive outcome that I can say yes. And like, that's just me personally. And that's probably not everybody's. You know, a lot of people be like, oh, they love when they're healthy and they like a big smile. And me, it's just like, I like to be right. So, you know, I don't like to go into any battle and lose. So even when I'm caregiving with someone, like, you better get healthy. You know, I take loss very seriously. I am not good with that. Never have been. I'm okay. That's just nice. That's not a good thing with me. Because it's for me, it's that ultimate release of control. So, and I think as a nurse, I saw so much of it that, you know, early on in my career, that I was never good at it. So it's not something.
Okay. Finally, let's have a little fun.
Yep.
If your life were a movie, what would the title be?
If I like one movie, what would the title be?
No. If your life.
Oh, if my life were a movie, what would the title be?
Yes.
Oh, let me think. If my life were a movie, what would the title be? Oh God, can I come back to that one? Do another one. That's too hard.
Okay, well, the next question is, if you could cast anyone in the cinematic universe to play you in that film, who would it be?
Meryl Streep.
Okay. Have you had the opportunity to meet any of your personal heroes?
Yes, I have actually. I have along the way. I mean, in different areas. I met Denzel Washington. I met in arts and entertainment. I've met lots of people personally. President Clinton. I met people. A lot of people don't like, but I liked him in that thing. Lots of international nursing people. I got you. I don't know if you're a country singer. I got to meet and speak with Naomi Judd, which was really cool. Yeah, I just have along the way. I'm blanking.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Would you assist a client in helping them attach a dream cast for their project?
Yes, I would. Again, that's a complicated process, and that's normally done through a relationship with a producer. And attaching dreamcasts are something that is complicated because agents want money in the bank.
Yes, I know.
And they don't like these letters of intent. So, you know, as an agent, I was always okay with, you know, like someone telling me, oh yeah, okay, you know, like our clients. But, you know, for the most part, you know, I'm aware of what the whole scenario is. So it's very complicated, depending on what the role is and where you're going after. And it's, you know, there are some that will attach with just interest if you know them personally, you can go after them personally on different levels. There are some that will maybe are interested in producer level things. It's just a very complicated process. So the general answer is yes. As a manager, that I do see that as my role in working with the producers. That's one of the biggest ways that managers are effective.
Okay. And last question: if a writer director wants to submit to be represented by you or by someone else at Creative Artists, is there somewhere they can go and do that?
Yes. I believe that right now they're, I don't have it pulled up. They can go to creativeartists.com. I think that's
Okay.
creative with a K. It's KREATIV. Creativeartists.com, I believe, is the actual website. and I don't know how to get out of the Zoom to check my own self, and I didn't bring down my phone. I don't think it actually says on there what their submission process is for literary right now, because I was looking at that the other day. They can also email directly. It's never advised. Don't send a full script. Don't do anything. The best thing to do is maybe send an introduction with your log line, and maybe like a 2 or 3 sentence summary of your project. Creative does have a script submission release, and they do work that way, like a form. If they're interested, they are working on that process because they also are a production company. It's a little different. So those processes can change kind of depending, but I believe the best bet is to try to go directly to their website and figure it out, but that may all be revamped and revamping as we go forward in 2021. For me personally, you can email me at Lynda, Lynda, at creativeartist.com, creative with a K, artist.com. And again, you can't send me anything more than your log line, a couple sentences, or I won't read it, and I'll definitely reject it. And then I would go from there. And if it's something that I thought that I wanted to forward on to them, make creative, I would. To someone else, if it's something I wanted to look at, I would ask you for a full script. If it's something that I thought that maybe somewhere in their production channel they would want, I would probably ask to do the script submission form, which is a little bit more complicated, and then we just take it from there.
Okay. Well, that's my last question.
I never answered your name of your movie, so I think normally my tagline on my personal wall, which Facebook that I don't give out, I have 2 Facebooks, one from private and one from professional, is I always tag my life, my crazy kids, but that doesn't even seem to do justice anymore. So I because it's not really about them, it's really about my life, right? But I still, they really do influence everything that I do, every decision that I make still, because like I said, the NBC 6, and so and now I have grandchildren, so I do have a legacy to leave behind, and no matter how I look at it. So I think I think right now my title would still be My Crazy Kids. But that doesn't even give any, it's the worst title because it doesn't say anything about me. And there's plenty of documentaries and stories and information all about my history up to and when I just disappeared from the face of the earth in 2000.
Okay.
5 or whatever.
Well, yep. John, are you there?
I am here.
Do you have any
good
questions
interview.
for me?
No questions. But I did want to thank Anna Maria and Kimberly and Joe and Eric for sending their comments of hello and following along with us. The depth of your experience and what you've kind of gone through, and it really hits the spectrum on so many different levels. I was just impressed at that. And so I definitely appreciate the perspective, and I can see, kind of where you are, and I appreciate the vision that you have going forward. Is this the Creative Artist website? I know it's not good.
Can I see? Yes, yeah, where it says creativity takes courage.
And so that's what it is, creative, no E with a, creative with a K and no E, artist.com.
Yes, creative
Go
with
ahead and check that out.
Correct. And we actually reopened officially tomorrow, the 5th, for the holidays. And it's been kind of kooky because right when we said we were reopening, production announced this in LA, this, shut down again. It's endless.
And I don't remember you ever saying a movie title if you were...
I just said it at the end, and I said it doesn't matter. It's a stupid movie title because I can't come up with one. But normally, my tagline on my personal page, not my public page, is My Crazy Kids.
Oh, okay.
But that's not really fair because it's not always.
We all could have that title.
So we could all have that title, right? So
right.
I don't. It's not a.
I get shot I get shot with a Nerf gun at least 5 times a day when I don't expect it.
Did you hear him? He came.
Your cat?
The cat, yeah, he was talking.
If I had to really be pushed on it, it would probably be something like the unintended warrior, something like that.
There you go. I like that, and that's fitting definitely for your story. So appreciate the time.
Yeah.
We good, Amy?
We're good, and kind of hang in here a little bit.
I think she's
Actually,
talking to you.
Yeah,
Lynda.
I'm talking to.
I really appreciate you having me tonight. This was
Oh,
really
no
fun.
problem. It was
Great
awesome.
interview.
Yep.
It was a great interview. I'm gonna submit it to AOF and to Indie Gathering categories.
And everybody
And also
watching,
you-
make sure you share and watch the
Who's
VOD.
watching? Can I even see who's watching? I can't see anything. All I can see is.
That's on the. Yeah, they're not here. They're not in Zoom, so it's on.
Oh, that's
But
right.
what I'm
on
gonna
Facebook.
do.
Oh, that's right, because you gave that Zoom number
If
out.
you missed this episode, I'm gonna do a watch party like right
No,
after.
I don't need to rewatch it.
No.
I know what I said. Darn it.
I don't want to know what I said.
Amy, do we have another one lined up? We've had 3 in a row.
Yes, next week is Erin Miracle. She's the first lady of AOF.
Is her
and
last
she's
name
also-
really Miracle?
That's what.
We will
That's
find
a
out.
cool last name.
Erin Miracle is she's playing the lead actress. It's really an ensemble piece, and you're the reason. But she plays the lead actress who would be considered what they would call the definition of the lead actress.
Gotcha.
And she is first lady of AOF. She is just a fun, like, I feel like all the females we cast in our movie were really good. And you know Brandon, he's been nominated, like straight out of the gate, the first 3 movies he did, he was nominated for awards. So and Montez looks like he's got a lot of promise. So
Good. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to Recovery Unplugged Live. See you next week, 9:30 p.m. on Monday, Eastern Standard Time. And Amy's gonna interview Erin Miracle. I'm gonna be here doing what I do. So, all right, everyone. We'll see you later. You guys can hang on and have a little chat, and we'll talk to you all
Thank
next
you for
week.
having me.
All right,
Happy
thanks,
New
Lynda.
Year.
Oh,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Lynda.